Okay, so here we go. This is number 6. This one is basically on sigils, and there's so much written about sigils, and there's so many different ways of doing them, and so many different thoughts about how to do them correctly by a bunch of different authors. We're going to go with sort of the general idea of how it started, and Austin Osman Spare is the person credited by most people of having come up with sigils. And he specifically wanted it to be done a certain way, and that was you would create your sigil and then you would gnosis, and his time way of doing it usually was masturbation. It's not necessary. Grant Morrison apparently is a big fan of that one. So moving along from that, I'm trying to do this live, and so I'm still learning how to deal with the things that happen on the screen. So the simplest one, the one that Peter Carroll basically was telling everybody to do in his books, was based on Austin Osman Spare's, and that was where you write down my desire is to be, to do, to have, and then you went in and you crossed out all of the repeated letters in that sentence. And then some people have it where you also go back and cross out all of the vowels. So you go from having an actual sentence like my desire is to have a new job by September to something that doesn't make a lot of sense because it's just the letters that are left. Then you put all those letters on top of each other. So the M, the Y, the D, and you end up with something that looks kind of like, we're going to try and do this here intelligently. I'm not sure if I can do that, but it looks kind of like if you can see it, desire, and you just keep mashing them together like that until you come up with a very simple, well, it's not that simple, but you come up with a symbol, basically. And then you play around with that until you find something that you like artistically, and that becomes your sigil. Okay, so you're going to end up with something that looks, it can be squiggly, it can be very artistic, not so artistic. It doesn't, there's no rules of what it has to look like. It has to please you. That's the most important thing. You have to look at it and say, oh yeah, that's cool, I like that. If not, do it again, or keep doing it until you get what you want. You can throw out more letters. It's very, very flexible. The basic concept behind it is to come up with an idea that can be put into a sentence that expresses you where you want to be in the future. You also want it to be something that's achievable. So for instance, you don't want to go that you want to be the first person to land on Pluto if you're my age, because it's not going to happen. And maybe if you're 20, okay, fine, there's time for that stuff to happen. You want to be a millionaire? Yes, you can win the lottery, or you could, write a book or make a song or whatever. There are ways to do that can happen fairly quickly for people. I've known people that went from obscurity to winning Oscars, and being millionaires, multimillionaires. So it is possible. It's very possible. But the thing is, to start out, pick something simple. Pick something that's probably going to happen. So instead of I want to have a new job in September, I would say something like, my first sigil would be, I want to go to the store on Thursday. And that sounds ridiculous, but it's something that I don't have to do, that doesn't have to happen, but it's real easy to achieve. All I have to do, get in my car, walk, catch a bus, whatever, and go to the grocery store. I go something real simple for the first one. The next one, I would make it a little more difficult. And then the next one, make it something that's more interesting, like I will have a new job by the end of the year. I'll have a new job in September. With all of these things, my personal opinion is put a date on it, but give that date some room. Not, I will raise $1,000 by tomorrow. I mean, unless you're a salesperson and you can do that in one day. But most people raising $1,000 in 24 hours is a big deal. So make it something incrementally more difficult until you get to something that feels like a challenge, a serious challenge, but is doable. And then you can make it even more of a challenge. All right. So first thing is to get the sigil, get the sentence. Now, other people have changed it from my desire is, or I want, or whatever, to how did I get a job by September. It's a fait accompli. You've already done it in your mind. And then the universe, magic will give you how you got there. All right. So one sentence, positive, not negative, simple, not complex, something that's achievable, but isn't necessary a slam dunk. Necessarily, it's not like the sun will come up tomorrow morning, because the sun is going to come up tomorrow morning. Something that may or may not happen, and that you have some control over, but not, let's say, complete control. All right. Adam Blackthorne is from Gallery of Magic, is where I got the How Did I one, and I like that a lot. So the next thing you can do, another one you can do, is Grant Morrison. Again, Grant Morrison popularized sigils a lot because he likes to do the one where you write it out and then you achieve orgasm. You just need to, you don't need to, but it's a good idea to, while you're doing this, to charge it, and you can charge it by achieving gnosis, Gnosis, gnosis. And again, orgasm is one way to do it. Another way to do it is to dance till you're exhausted, and you can meditate. The basic idea with it is that you want to focus yourself on it and then let it go, and completely let it go. And you want it to be something that you can't see it and go, like a year from now, I'll go, oh, that is, because you can't read it. A good way to not be able to remember consciously what it says or what it represents is to do more than one sigil. And you can charge them all at the same time. You do like 5 or 6 of them. Do one for tomorrow, one for next week, next month, whatever. And, with increasing difficulty, the challenges, and charge them all at one time. Now, some people say charge them, burn them. Spare was big on getting rid of it after you charged it. Other people say charge it and leave it around where you can see it, so that it keeps working in your subconscious. It's basically getting your subconscious, your higher self, your holy guardian angel, whatever you want to call it, the part of you, the stuff that you're connected to that isn't part of your conscious mind, that helps you do things that seem kind of outrageous, that seem nearly impossible. All right, so the main thing is intent, positive intent, simple, focused, achievable. Put it down in some type of symbol. I think the best way is, how did I get a new job by the end of the month? Sigilize it, charge it, and then let it go. So there's another guy out there. Oh, I said Adam Blackthorne, Gallery of Magic. So hopefully this time, is this backwards again? It is again. You can't read it. Right? See. No, it's backwards. It shouldn't be though, because, all right, I'll figure that out again next time. Anyhow, a guy named Taylor Elwood, who I like a lot, has a thing called Space-Time Magic Foundations, a book. And he talks a lot about stuff in there. And he's come up with an idea, or he talks about it in his book, where you do comic book panels showing you going through like step 1, step 2, step 3, from you're here to you're on your way and you're there. And the way he charges it is that you color it in. I think that's a lot of fun. I don't know how well it would work for me, because it sounds like a lot of work, but it's a fun way to do it. So there's another way you can do it. Grant Morrison actually came up with writing stories that were kind of like doing a sigil. So he was writing, I think it was The Invisibles, and he put himself in as a character, and he would write about things that would happen to the character that would then happen in his life. Um, another way to do it. Sigils is a very specific way of doing it, but what it basically is using magic to manifest, if you will, things that you want to happen. Now, many years ago, many years ago, when I was living in San Francisco, I read a wonderful little book called Visioning, and there was a technique in it that I tried that was kind of like sigilization in a way, and that was you would get a card, just a card that appealed to you, that was pretty and that maybe had some type of a magical element to it. I think I found one with like a wizard on the front of it, so I bought that one. And in it, on the left-hand side, you would write things, that I want to come true, or things that are going to happen, or I can't remember the exact wording because I haven't done this in years. And then you would write down 3 things, and, most likely going to happen pretty easily, probably going to happen, might not happen. And you would write those down and the date that you wrote it down. And every morning when you got up, you would look at the card, open it up, just look at it quickly, close it, put it back down. And at night before you went to sleep, you did the same thing. And that's all you did. And then one day you go, oh, that actually happened. I did get that job. And then you go on the other side, things that have now happened or have been accomplished. And you would write down, I got the job, and the date that you got the job, or whatever it was. And there was a time when most of the stuff that I wrote down on the left-hand side ended up on the right-hand side. I mean, it was like 80%. It was really kind of insane. It was getting into graduate school when, I'll give you, here's the thing. Radio television major at San Francisco State. And I decided after I'm getting close to graduating that I want to go to graduate school. But I want to go to graduate school in film. And of course, I'm in radio TV, so that's no good. And on top of that, I didn't ever want to live in Los Angeles or New York, and every good film school was in Los Angeles or New York. There were 5, 2 in New York, 3 in LA. So it was terrible. I didn't know anybody. I wasn't related. I didn't, none of my friends worked in the industry, nothing. And I was living in San Francisco in the wrong major. And I was about to take this class that you had to take, a writing class. And as I was about to register for it, a friend of mine from another class happened to see that what I was doing. She said, what are you registering for? And I said, no, you don't want to do that. You want to wait and take it with Jerry. I said, well, what's it? She says, Jerry is incredible. Really, wait. I thought, oh, I'll take something else this semester. So I took something else and I waited for Jerry. So I take Jerry's class. It's my last semester. I'm taking something like 25 units. Believe me, I'm insane. And I'm in the class, and I've decided that I really want to go to the American Film Institute, which is, really the hardest school to get into at that point in time, because they have the smallest classes. I mean, the smallest number of students accepted each year. And Jerry, the instructor, shows the film one day. Said, oh, this is a film that my son made in graduate school, and I'd like to show it to you guys. So we were like, that's cool. It makes an easy class, right? You watch a movie. So she showed us the movie, and at the end it said American Film Institute. And I went up to her afterwards and I said, oh, Jerry, I said, that's a dream of mine, I'd love to go to the American Film Institute, but I know I couldn't get in. And she goes, oh, no, you can get in. You're a good writer, and I'll give you a recommendation. And I'm like, what? Really? She goes, yeah. And I go, wow. And so I, do some research, and I'm past the date. I'm like 2 weeks past the deadline for submitting my application. So I go back to Jerry and I go, Jerry, thank you very much. I appreciate the offer, but I'm 2-3 weeks past the deadline for submitting. There's no way, I can't even submit now. It's not a problem. Call the guy who runs the Institute. He's a friend of mine. Just use my name and he'll let you apply. So I'm like, no, that's not going to happen. No, no way. But I call because you have to do the groundwork. No matter how much magic you're doing, you've got to do the groundwork. If an opportunity shows up, you have to respond to it positively. So even though I was embarrassed and I thought, they're just going to say, oh, yeah, right. What a jerk you are. I called and I got through. And when he picked up the phone, he said, hi, blah, 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 blah. And he said, how is Jerry? And I'm like, wow. And I said, I'm calling because I wanted to go. And she said to call you, but I know I'm way past the deadline for applying. He said, don't worry about it. Just send in your application. Well, right there, that's magic. I got to apply weeks after the deadline was closed. That's one. Two, I was going in with a recommendation by somebody who knew the guy who ran the Institute. And that was good. So I go, send it in. And my roommate says, what are you going to do if they accept you? And I go, well, they won't. But if they do, there's an interview and I have to go to Los Angeles for the interview. And he goes, oh, okay. So I don't know, a month later, 2 months later, whatever it was, I got an interview and I went down to Los Angeles. He goes, well, what are you going to do if you get accepted? I said, I don't know, but it won't happen. There's no way. And if it does, I will go because I have to, so I went down, I had my interview. It seemed okay. It didn't seem great. I came home. He said, how'd it go? I said, I don't know. We'll see. And a few weeks later, I get my letter of acceptance. And he goes, well, what are you going to do now? You can't afford to go. And I said, yeah, I know. I'll apply for financial aid. And he said, if you get it, I said, then I'm going to go. And if I don't, I'm going to go anyhow. I don't know how I'm going to do it, but I'm going to go. And again, it was that belief that it was possible that I could do it, even though I was open to the fact that it might not happen. But if it did present itself, I would take the next step, whatever the next step was. So they accepted me. I applied for financial aid. I got the financial aid. I moved to Los Angeles and I went to the American Film Institute and had an incredible year. So all I'm saying, and there's a bunch of other things in my life like that, where it doesn't make any sense and something leads to something and you're thinking, I'm going in the wrong direction, but you're not. So back to Sigils. Have an intent. This is the most important thing. Have a strong, clear intent of something you want to happen, that you know it is possible. It may be highly unlikely, but it is possible. Next, create a sigil. And again, maybe my card was my sigil in those days with the stuff written down, but you need something like that to focus on. And you don't want to spend all day thinking about it. You just want to go periodically in your brain. Now with the card, twice a day I looked at it, bing, that's all I needed. When I've used a sigil, you look at the sigil and bing, your subconscious gets it. And your subconscious is doing the hard work. The work that you don't seem to know how to do. The work there you go, I can't imagine how to do this, how to make this happen. It's impossible. Or it feels like it's impossible. Let it happen. Let it go that way. Charge it. Okay? I think charging it is something you need to find out for yourself the best way to do it. If it's dancing, if it's meditating, if it's orgasm, whatever it is, go for it. But bring a lot of focus, a lot of energy, and then just completely let it all go. And then put it away. And then things will show up. And when they show up, follow them up. No matter how improbable they sound or seem, follow them up. Do the legwork. Do the work in this aspect of reality. So if you have to go someplace, talk to somebody, make a phone call, fill something out, I don't know, take a class, whatever you have to do that part of it. Okay? And you will see that slowly more and more things start to happen that seemed out of your reach, that seemed if not impossible, highly improbable. So give it a shot. You can try the comic book method. You can try the little visioning card method. You can try the how did I get to have this great job in September. You can try and crossing out the vowels and repeated letters and making it into a symbol, into a sigil. You can try all of those. You can try writing a story like Grant Morrison. I mean, that's really ambitious. And if you're a story writer, if you're a writer, then do it. Write a story, put yourself in as the character, as the main character, and have these things happen to that person. If you're a painter, you can do a painting. You need to find some way to, after you've got the intent, you're clear about it, to bring that into a focus object of some type. It can be a sigil. It can be a work of art. It can be a song. Or it can be a dance. I think it's better if it's something that you can revisit daily, but not obsess on. So dancing might not be the best way to do it. A song, I'm sure, would be okay. Would be easier. But try at least one of these methods, if not all of them, and see which ones work for you, work best for you. And again, with all this stuff, give it some time. And here's the real crazy thing about magic, for me at least, is that you'll give it time. You'll do it, and you'll just give it time. You just let it go, and then all of a sudden, boom, something will happen. You go, whoa, that was out of nowhere and fast. And other things, you go, oh my God, I'm going to be 95 before this happens. And there's a lesson in the things that take longer to get to you, or that don't ever show up. And the lesson is maybe that wouldn't be the best thing for you. That's one lesson, which is why it's not showing up, because it might do more damage than good. Maybe it's at cross purposes. Maybe if you want these two things, and one of them would stop you from getting the other one, whichever way would block it, you have to decide which one you really want. So that's another thing. It helps you to clarify what you really want. Okay, I hope this worked, this live thing. And I guess that's it, folks. Thank you all. Looks like there's some, oh, Shannon's here, Jason's here, Chalk's here, Aubrey's here. That's cool. Thank you guys for watching and for listening. And I will see you next week. Give it a try and let me know if you try any of these things I've talked about. Sorry, I'm still learning how to use this. And have a great week.